Hello and welcome to this deep listening workshop with Mavis Carn, hosted by Graceful Coaching. And it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you all today and the lovely Mavis Carn. Mavis, why don't you start us off on this two-part workshop, sharing with us what we're doing here and how you got into all this in the first place?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I am a counselor, coach, trainer, educator, and I have been teaching something for the last 40 some years called the Three Principles. Now, some of you that are joining us also do that, and some of you don't, but I have been doing that in lots of different arenas, schools and agencies and prisons and hospitals and businesses. And I took my work to Africa a few times. And I feel like about the most fortunate person on the planet, not just because I learned that information, but because I'm 80 years old and I'm still passing it on without tipping over, which I think is kind of an accomplishment. So I am fortunate and I'm glad to be here. Um, the listening part is not what I mainly teach, but it's the prelude to what I teach, because I think that it's kind of like, to use a sports analogy, it's kind of like warming up is to runners. Or another one would be in the Olympics, there's a thing called the running broad jump. They run and they run and they run as fast as they can, and then they jump into the sand pit. The run is the power behind the jump. Listening, really good listening, I think, is the power behind any human interaction. I don't think there's an interaction in the world that can't be brought to higher ground by one person showing up that knows how to listen. Now, I used to think I knew how to listen because I was pretty good at just kind of being able to either in my head or out loud repeat back what I heard. And that was my idea of good listening. And then many years ago, I heard a woman, her name is Sandra Crott. And while I'm talking about her, I want to give credit to people who helped me with this listening thing along the way. One of the most important persons is Sandra Crott, who, along with other members of Pransky and Associates in La Conner, Washington, Sandy did a workshop that I went to, and I was astonished to find out I was a terrible listener. It was very embarrassing. I spent most of my time listening to myself think about what other people were saying. I wasn't actually listening to them. So I want to thank her. I want to thank also Dr. Jerry Lee, who by another name is my big brother, great listener. And I want to thank all the little children in the world who, after trying to get their parents' attention, give up and climb up on their lap and take a hold of their head and hold it there until their parent shows up. Every little kid knows when somebody's listening or they're not. And the reason I tell you that is because I want you to know that at a deep level, you do know how to listen really well. You just probably, like I did, got educated away from listening like that. So I don't think I'm going to be telling you anything that doesn't sound vaguely familiar. You know it. It's a great app, and it's built into us. And I just want to reacquaint you with it. Marian Wright Edelman, who in this country, in America, was the founder and the longtime director of the Children's Defense Fund. And she's just one of my heroes. And she has a quote I want to read you. She said, "Service is the rent we pay for living. It is the very purpose of life, not something you do in your spare time." I want to suggest to you that really listening to another human being is probably somewhere near the top of the list of the most powerful service you could ever be in to yourself or anyone else. So, have I made it sort of clear that I'm a fan of listening? Okay. So let's start the lesson. There are possibly 4 different kinds of listening. Now I'm making this up. There might be 10,000 kinds of listening, but just to get us started, can you put the first slide on? There are 4 kinds of listening. One being distracted. One being, where are they? Paying attention. One being evaluative. And one being deep listening. Can you put the second one on?
One sec, Mavis.
Is the second one coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 of 11 coming.
I went 2 coming.
Got it?
Ta-da! So, distracted listening. You can put 3 on. Distracted listening. Who doesn't do that? My favorite way of getting distracted is usually when I'm in the car, and many times I've had the radio on and the guy will say he's going to play such and such a piece of music, and I think, oh great, I love that. I love that piece. 3 or 4 minutes later, he swears he has played that piece. I missed the whole thing. I started thinking about something or other and completely missed the whole piece of music. Now, how can that be that you can be alone in your car with music playing and not hear it? Because you're making silent noise with your thinking. You're thinking about things that deafen you. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world to happen to somebody, but it is a common thing, and it doesn't do a whole lot for human understanding. Can we put the next one on?
Yeah. Just a little slow.
The evaluative one is number 4 there. Now this one, we get taught to do this. I don't know about you guys, but I got taught to listen to this way. To when somebody is talking to me, I will be thinking, do I agree with that or not? Is that true? Or maybe I'll think of some sort of thing that's just like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this, or that reminds me of that, or maybe I start thinking about how to apply what they say, or maybe they're saying something and I get a little judgmental, or I get a little critical of them, or maybe they say something and I get defensive, and I start thinking about how I'm going to how I'm going to straighten them out as soon as they quit talking. Or maybe I think I know what they're saying and I just kind of finish their sentences for them. Or maybe, of course, I know none of you ever do this, but maybe they're talking about a problem, and the whole time they're talking about the problem, I'm thinking about how I'm going to fix it. I know that's rare, but nonetheless, I do that. Or in my case, I got taught to listen to people and diagnose them, to listen to what they're talking about and thinking about what little box I could put them in so that they would know what's the matter with them, and that the insurance would pay for their talking to me because now they have a diagnosis. I'm embarrassed that I ever did that. Or maybe while they're talking, we're just planning a response, or they reminded us of something and we're gonna kind of impatiently wait until they're done talking so we can say what we wanted to say. So this is a very popular way of listening. The thing on there about assuming, that's what I used to do. That's what got me so embarrassed when I went to Sandy's workshop, that I assumed I knew what people meant when they would say things, even just words. I would assume that I knew what they meant by that word. And after I found out that I was assuming a lot, I started noticing when I was assuming, and I would check with the person to say, well, is this what you mean by that? And I could not believe how many times I was wrong. How many times they meant something completely different than I assumed they meant. I couldn't believe that I had been doing that for years and years and years. Now I know there are people that have worse habits than that, but I was embarrassed by it because I was in the business of listening to people and as best I could help them with things. And half the time I wasn't even hearing what they meant because I was assuming they meant what I thought they meant. So after I got done being embarrassed, it was really helpful to notice when I was assuming and then check it out. How about you try number, did we miss one? No, number 5. Paying attention, another popular one. How many times from the time you started school until maybe now, has somebody mentioned to you that you should pay attention? It's just pay attention. And it's urgent. There's a bearing down. There's a think hard about this or try to remember. I remember my granddaughter, who was at the time I don't know, she was 16, I guess. And it was one of the times that I went to Africa right before that. And I asked her if, we were having lunch one day and I asked her if she knew who Nelson Mandela was. And she said, no. Inside, I was aghast, but I didn't say anything. I just said, well, didn't you do a big project last fall on South Africa? And she said, yeah. And I said, I remember you had a study group and you had big production about it and you got an A on it and it was pretty cool. And she said, oh yeah, yeah. And I said, well, didn't the name Nelson Mandela show up at all? And she said, oh yeah. Yeah, he was in jail or something, right? And I remember thinking, I went to school like that. I paid attention, took notes, memorized stuffed information and handed it in, but I didn't learn it. I just wanted the grade. So usually when we're doing that, it's for a specific outcome. Now I live, it's useful sometimes. I live just a few miles from the Mall of America, which is this huge bunch of stores. And the only time I ever go there is if somebody comes to town and wants to go there. Otherwise, I'd stay away. But if if um, if I park out there, I either stuff it into my head where I'm parked, or I write it down on something. Because if I forget, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to find my car in that enormous parking lot. So it's useful for that. Or maybe if somebody's given you directions and you have nothing to write it on, and you you hold on to it in your head until you get to where you're going. So it's occasionally useful as a little tool, but as a way to even as a way to go to school, or as a way to deepen relationships or interactions, it doesn't have a whole lot going for it. Let's try number 6. This is the one I have for sale today. This is where you make a decision. You take a stance. You decide that you're going to make it more important to hear what this person wants to get across to you than anything you have to think about. You decide it. And so, in service to that, all your habits of thinking, all the analyzing and the processing and the reacting and so forth, those thoughts come and go because you're not interested in them. Your interest is in really understanding what this person wants to get across to you. It's kind of like the way that we listen to music that we like. We usually don't analyze it or think, now what key is it in, who wrote that, and da 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 da. We let it in. And it's sometimes I think that might be why we call it the universal language. That all over the world, people listen to the music like that. You can sit with people listening to music and you don't know the same language, but you can do it together. You can feel it together. So when you're listening that way, the goal is, at least the way that I put it, is to get this golden cord between your heart and them. That you listen with respect. You listen for what part of what they're saying is true and never mind what isn't. You listen behind the words. You don't get all tangled up in their words. You listen to the meaning behind it until you just feel this connected. You don't accept or reject anything they say. You just try it on for size. And you take it in without editorial comment. And you put it all, as George Pransky says, you put it all on the back burner and you let it turn into what it's supposed to turn into. It's effortless. It's easy. You're not working at anything. The only way that it happens is if you don't work at it, but you remember what your goal is, to make what this person is saying to you more important than anything you're thinking about. It's the most nourishing thing. It's I don't know. It's like it's the quickest way to fall in love with almost everybody. You just see their worth. You just see who they are. So you ready to practice? Say yes. Okay, so here's where you're gonna get connected with somebody. And we're gonna do this 3 times. And each time is gonna take about 4 minutes. And if you look on your computer, you have a clock and you can break it up. And you're gonna spend 2 minutes listening, and you're not gonna say anything. Not a word. While the person, let's see, what am I gonna have you talk? The first thing I'm gonna have you talk about is one of your favorite books. Okay, so while that person is talking to you about one of their favorite books, you're going to just listen. And you're just going to notice how you're listening. You don't have to try to listen in any way. You're just going to listen. And you're going to do that for 2 minutes. And at the end of the 2 minutes, you're going to talk about your favorite book, and they're going to listen, and they're not going to say a word. It's not going to be the usual kind of conversation. Okay? Having any fun yet? Okay. Go for it.
David, would you like me to send people into breakout rooms now?
I would. Wherever that is, send them there.
Yeah. And would you like me to press pause on the recording for this bit? Because I understand we don't need this bit. Is that correct?
That's right. We don't.
Right. So I'm going to press pause here, everybody. And I'm going to send you, hopefully, to break.
Hello. Are you back, everybody? So this is what I want to know. What did you notice about your listening?
Anybody like to share? Karen?
I can share if nobody else is sharing.
Okay, Lana?
Hi Mavis.
Hi.
So what I noticed was I started out with sort of deep listening, and then I would flit into each of the different categories, and I wasn't doing it, but it was just, and then I'd notice it's like, oh wow, I'm doing that compare thing, like, would I like this book? I don't know, maybe I would, or that sounds familiar to this book. And then I'd flip out of that and I'd move into just listening again, and then I'd move into, oh, that's a fact thing, you better remember that. And you know, like it was just fascinating to see myself move without even consciously knowing it, but just move through all of the categories you described, except maybe not the first one, but with the other ones. But you settle in, but you still inadvertently move throughout. Yeah. You dance throughout it, so it was fun.
Isn't that interesting? Good job of noticing. That's what we're after.
Oh, okay.
Be aware. You don't get a bad mark for anything here. It's just be aware of your listening. That's what I want to hear about. Anybody else?
Karen, do you want to go ahead? You were going to share. You can unmute.
Yeah. Hi, Mavis. I had the same experience as Lana, so she kind of took mine. But as I was, it was, I love, maybe it's the topic too. I love to read so much. So I was so excited to hear, but it was like, oh, I'm too excited to hear because I'm listening to for what I agree with, you know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then I kept catching myself wanting to grab my pen and write down what she said, the book or the thing. So yeah, I kept catching myself, wait, just listen. And then right around, probably halfway through, after I just watched all those thoughts come and go, I felt a kind of just, oh, I don't have to do any of that. The effortless part, like I don't have to grab my pen. I don't have to agree. I could just, and then I felt the kind of drop in, and there wasn't as much going on in my head, or it wasn't as attractive.
I love how you guys are seeing what you're doing. That's the point. You
Yeah,
get
it was
A.
great. A's for failing.
Just A's for noticing. Big points for noticing. Who's next?
I'll go next. What was really interesting to me was that because I'm a voice coach, the first thing I noticed was a Scottish accent. So I found myself falling into what I'm usually used to listening to. And I almost had to deliberately kind of drop my listening to an accent. And then I noticed that when she was talking about certain types of books that she liked, it was then you drop into another space and then you find yourself filtering. Do I have anything in common with this person? Do they like the same books as I like? So I'm filtering to see then if I've got anything in common, almost like if I have or haven't, shall I bother carrying on listening? And then it went right down to the place, and I kind of came to a place probably really far into the conversation where you have a little bit of self-judgment on yourself, but you look and you go, Angela, this is not about you. It's kind of like, because I knew what I was, like I know what the direction is. I knew where I was trying to get to. So yeah. The space was me noticing actually what I was listening to, and when I was filtering it through my personal thinking of, oh, I'm used to listening to voice tone. Oh, I'm, do I like these books? Would I get on with this person? And then finally, like, this is not about you. So that's where I got to.
You guys are great. I love this. All right. Who's next?
Feel free to just unmute. Amy?
Yeah, I experienced many of the same things that everyone just said. So I'll just share that I had an experience when I was dropped in, and it felt like I was really present with my partner, that she was talking about a book that had some very strong, the woman who had written the book had some really strong, powerful, and kind of traumatic experiences. And as my partner was describing that, just the feelings of empathy, like because I was so present with what she was saying, my eyes started to water and my body really felt what she was saying. I felt really in my body, in a way that I don't usually when I'm listening.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I don't know. My mind, my thinking, I want to say empathy, just use the word empathy, but it just felt like I was very she was connected to what she was saying, and I was connected to what she was saying.
You really heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anybody else?
Well, I would just say that I've had an opportunity to practice listening like this some other times. And one of the things that I noticed when I was doing this is that I really found myself being very interested in what I was hearing, because, it's just unique to this person who I don't know. I don't even know these people, but it's really fun to just have a topic and to listen and hear how that topic is important for them. And another thing that I've noticed when I've done this sort of listening is how your own thoughts sometimes try to kick you into a distracted mode. Yeah. And how as soon as you notice that, then you can start to say, okay, let's just let go of those thoughts and get back to this.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, exactly. Sweet. This is way too much fun. Who's next?
I found myself kind of over focusing initially, like trying really hard.
Yeah.
And I was trying so hard that the title that she initially mentioned went out of my mind. So in the very first portion of the conversation, I'm like, oh, what was the title of the book though? Like I found myself freaking out because the title had somehow left my mind. So I was trying to retrieve that. And then when she said it again, thankfully, I was able to then finally settle into, why am I trying so hard? Like, this doesn't have to be that hard. And then I was able to enjoy the continued details that she shared moving forward. But the effort in the front half was noticeable for me. And it seems like with all that effort, it was very regressive. It did not help me in my listening at all. So,
Well, I want to assure you that all of you so far, your ability to observe yourself is a big deal. It might be embarrassing, but it's a big deal, and that's what we're after. So I want to hear more. Who's next?
Can I say hello?
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I've noticed something very similar, that I was really trying to listen for content, for and I found myself making meaning of of passion and expression, and as almost as an analyzing what the deeper meaning of why this person is choosing this book.
Yeah.
Which was really, it really gripped me, and I was listening to that, and then I also found myself, because I went first, also found myself comparing with mine, and like, I wasn't that structured, and kind of it was really about content at some point, and it was interesting to observe that.
Great. Who's next?
Hi there. I think, if I come on okay, I think I was really similar as well. I was definitely going in and out of most of the different things that you kind of covered earlier. That I was maybe a little bit kind of evaluating at some points, and then also like, oh, that sounds a really interesting book. And the person I was with was really clear on why they'd chosen that book and why it was really relevant at this point in their life. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe I should get on that. So it was really kind of interesting to observe my thoughts kind of really all over the place. And the times I probably dropped deeper into listening, I probably wasn't as, because there wasn't as much kind of that I was really consciously aware of thinking. It was kind of noticing more when I was distracted out of that place, I think, is when I tended to notice it. And then I was really trying to pay attention. So like the last person said, I went first as well. And there was definite points when I was like, oh God, she's talking a lot more. I didn't cover half this stuff. I just waffled during mine. So it was really interesting to hear just my own thoughts coming up on that comparison. And then it was quite interesting going, well, where did that come from? There's nothing to compare. They're completely different books. And it was just really interesting observing how my thoughts kind of jumped all over the place and really into that kind of evaluating mode, and then trying to go, oh, that's really brilliant. I've got something. And also, to be honest, trying not to jump in and say something. I was really aware of how often I would normally have jumped in that conversation and spoken or responded, at least as part of a conversation. So for me, even not saying anything for 2 minutes was quite an eye-opener. I probably talk a lot more than normally.
That's usually really strange for most people. What do you mean I can't say anything? They won't think I'm listening. All right, thanks. Who's next?
Maybe, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I can't see you yet, but I can hear you.
There I am. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Well, we didn't have much time because I had a few problems with the connection. So my partner, Jocelyn, said, let's make it shorter. And so with this thing in my head, you know, I kept thinking about, oh, we don't have much time. We don't have much time. We kept me trapped there, and I could see it. But I was listening and you know, paying attention to the content and everything. Too many details in my head, right? Too much attention in the details. And all of a sudden, though, I had this feeling that my partner was touching a different place. And there I wanted to stay for a little bit, but then, you know, time was up. I said, I wish I had one more minute just to see where we could end up. So it's really interesting, you know, how much thought we put when we try to listen. And the moment you give up, you let go, there you have more space. And I think your listening changes. That was my feeling.
Great. Awesome. This is all so good. I know you maybe don't think so, but you will. It's just really good. Anyone else?
I hope my partner Lee will speak. And I'm going to say something really kind of simple. I think, you know, I mean, in the right way, I think we fell in love with each other during those 4 minutes. So Lee, maybe you want to talk. You're wonderful.
So I'm the partner. Yes, we connected, and it was I felt it all over my body and soul. And then the clock came up and I was out because I thought, oh, we have to go back. But the feeling stayed, even though I went up in my head. And that was very interesting too, to be able to still be connected, even though I went into my head. And yeah, thank you, Kathy.
That's just beautiful. Yeah. You're onto something. Yeah. Next? Anybody's next?
Yeah, I'll share. I went first, and I found that there was more effort in me speaking. So when the time came for me to listen, it felt like quite a relief. What I had to do was just kind of give in and just listen to what was being said. And I really enjoyed what my partner was talking about, the book she was talking about. But in particular, I really enjoyed just looking at her and feeling her reaction to the parts of the story that she was sharing. And I really enjoyed that. And I found myself, the 2 times I did get distracted, one was definitely, oh, I should say something. Well, I can't say anything, so I'll make a noise. So I'll just go, sort of sounds, make some sounds, because otherwise it feels really rude to me to not acknowledge. And then the other time was when I saw the message saying that we needed to go back. But otherwise I was really just, it actually felt like the easier job to me today. Maybe it was just today. And it was the subject matter too, because, you know, it was a book. So it wasn't something personal. It was someone sharing a book. So I just found that really interesting and thought, yeah, I need to do more of that in other areas.
Great. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to share?
Hi. What I found quite amazing about myself is I got really excited when my partner started telling me about this book, and how then I realised how it was quite quite a bit of thought that was going on. You know, this excitement and like, oh, because it's just the kind of books that I would love. So also about, which meant that I realised that I wanted to speak, you know, about the excitement.
Yeah.
So that really amazed me, actually. And a bit like just what Nita shared there, what I did find much easier was me listening than actually speaking about my book. I just found that much easier. So that was quite interesting, Mavis, you know. So,
yeah.
Great exercise.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love hearing this. This is great. Anyone else?
Do they get stickers, Mavis?
Pardon?
Do they get stickers for best in the class, best share?
No, I didn't get what you said.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Okay.
Anybody else want to share before we move on? I can't see you all on the screen because there's two screens, so just unmute your line. Want to move on, Mavis?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to do another one. This time, you stay with us. You can, I don't know, Grace, if you're going to put them with the same person or not. It doesn't matter. Either way. You're going to go back into your rooms and you're going to, this time I would like you to have a conversation. Same rules apply. No talking when you're being the listener, and 2 minutes each and all that. I would like you to have a conversation about your favorite relative. And if you don't have a favorite relative, talk about what it's like not to have a favorite relative. So either way, you're going to have a conversation. Okay? Go for it. Go back to your rooms.
I'm just going to open the rooms here. So you will be invited to join. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. I would like to know what you noticed this time. You guys are awesome noticers.
This is Rita. I went first in speaking, and then when I was listening to my partner, my first concern was, will I be listening through all of those different distractions? So I got caught up just for a second or so, and then I stopped myself instantly and really listened. And I will have to tell you, I just felt love. As my partner was talking, it was as if I could see her like in 6 dimensions. There was just beautiful light coming from everything she was saying, and the room just started filling up with the beauty of her energy, what she was talking about. I literally just heard love the entire time, and it was beautiful.
Welcome home.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we're going.
It still catches my breath just thinking back to how deep that went so instantly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't it amazing how you don't work to get there? That's what happens when you quit trying. Who's next?
Nicola?
Yeah, that's it. It was just working. But I found that second time much easier because I knew that I didn't have to, I would dip in out and my thoughts would come and go and things would come in. But I really liked that one because I knew that my thoughts would be changed. But and then when I did connect, I could feel that. So the person she was talking about, I could feel the love and the care and the admiration, and I felt that. But as soon as I felt it, I recognized it. I was like, oh, that's what she means. And then it went again. So trying to get back into that deep listening again, and then you felt it again, and then it dipped out. But it was a really nice exercise, given that I wasn't as focused on it as I was in the first part, and then the second part was like, oh yeah, now I know where that connection comes in. So it was nice to experience it, even if my thinking did come in and disturb it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Bravo.
I can share as well again. It's Lana here. And this was a really different experience. This one, you know how Sid Banks always says, you know, go for the feeling, look for the feeling. It's like that feeling was so tangible. It was so there. I felt so connected to her. I started tearing up. I started, like, it was so emotional. I was just, you know, somebody in the last call said that falling in love, it was like, I was just in awe, in love, of my partner, of the woman that she, you know, was talking about. And when I came back, I thought, no, that's so interesting that I didn't find myself going around all the different, you know, types of listening this time. And I thought, I wonder why that is. And I think, you know, one thought I had was, oh, the first exercise was about a book. Well, that engaged my academic, like, okay, you might have to remember something here. So I could see how that would have engaged part of my own programming of how I listen, versus this time, there was none of that. It was just pure heart to heart. It was like one heart listening to another heart about something that wasn't academic, analytical. It was all feeling.
Can I reassure you about something?
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the subject matter. It was your listening.
Yeah.
It just seems like it was the subject matter.
Yeah, it sure did. It sure did. It was you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mavis.
Thank you. That's a great story. Who's next?
I'm next. Can everyone hear me?
Hi.
Hi, Marvis. Nice to see you again. So, my partner, it was a very, just 1 second. It was a very genuine connection, because I'm so sorry for the background noise, because seemed like it wasn't the subject matter, but it just seemed that we had spoken through our whole life, and we were like really listening, because like not pretending to listen, but just like really there. And it was such a beautiful connection, I would say, and I could see the beauty in his words. And also, like, as he was talking about his kids, I could see the relationship, and I could picture, like, visually the relationship that he has with his kids, just by being available and listening.
Great. That's wonderful. All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. Thomas, do you have anything you want?
Do we have someone else?
Yeah, it was like, I'm amazed every time for 2 minutes you meet another person, and it's sort of you fall in love, and you get curious, and you want to know more, and what's happening? I haven't seen these people before, and it's like so liberating. That's my
I'm happy
2
for
cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I would say that my thinking after the fact was very similar to what Lana had stated, excuse me. I thought, oh, it was the subject matter. It was not only so easy to talk about, but so easy to listen to, because you're talking about something special to each of you. And it's almost, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just felt easier to connect to these wonderful attributes that they are sharing about this special person in their life, that I did, and after the fact, find myself going, oh, it must have been the subject matter, you know. But it was just a very enjoyable experience, and I felt very different in comparison to the first breakout.
That was you. It was not the subject matter. Awesome. Who's next?
Feel free to just unmute your line.
I found myself really feeling a window into somebody else's world, Mavis. And that place when you were talking about service, it's as I was listening just to everybody else just reshare, that I started to just reflect on what I had felt was, I could feel the essence of the person in front of me. And I could feel that it wasn't just about my feeling of love for the person, I felt I was feeling the essence of somebody else in front of me. And it felt really, it felt actually rather nice to be, to the focus to be on being of service. And literally just by listening to that other person's essence, that was the only service in the world in that moment I needed to be. Does that make any sense?
That's the truth. That's it. Thank you.
I would offer something. Yeah, I would say that as I was listening, that it's almost like another way to say this falling in love or a state of caring, or it felt very much like a sacred space that we have as we listen to each other. And as I was being listened to, I felt that same sense of this is very special.
Thank you, Gary. That's well said.
I'll share again. It's more sitting here listening to everyone speak now that I'm recognizing how much static and noise there is in the other kind of modes of listening. And I've been experiencing it as I've been listening to everybody, certainly. It just feels like it's when we drop all of that, it's so much more pleasurable and liberating. It's just so like I'm sitting here and my body is tingling. I feel really good in my body right now. And everyone's also talking about love, and I'm feeling kind of, you know, that visceral response to that too, that it's just, wow. And it's not difficult to just drop all of that and surrender. It's not a hard thing to do. But all of that distraction and like reaching for the pen to take a note, like that was my first experience with my partner, is wanting to write down the book she was talking about. And this experience, the second experience, was more, we ended up using all of our time. So we had a little conversation as well. And we both were remarking how there's this extra layer on Zoom where you get to see yourself as well. And so for me, it was an experience of, oh, I'm yawning right now. Is she going to be offended by that? I should be laughing when when she says something funny. Just that self-conscious experience of looking at yourself on the screen while the other person is talking and wanting to listen a certain way. But now, as I'm listening to, everyone come on and speak, I'm just having this wonderful, pleasurable experience of, all of that starting to loosen and let go. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that story. Who's next?
Can I say something? I've been reflecting on the subject matter. What you said, that it's not because I would have totally said the same thing as Lana. It was just an entirely different experience to the first round. But I'm not quite sure why that is. And, the second time round, it was like none of the judgmental thing that is very habitual for me, at least, would come up at all. The whole being like, did I choose an interesting enough book kind of thing. It was just not there at all. And so I would have said it's definitely because we didn't talk about something that is like something you can judge, that is, it was we were talking about someone that is so absolutely meaningful in our lives. And it was just absolutely beautiful to get to meet that person and get to meet the person they were talking about, my partner was talking about. And it was just so beautiful and easy. And I was just wondering what this subject matter bit is for me, because it totally felt very, very different to the first time round.
Well, I know it can seem that way. I understand that.
It seems that way to me, definitely.
What would you think about if I told you, I've done this probably thousands of times. I never get tired of it, actually. I love it. And I use different subject matters, but I have used this before. And would you be surprised to find out that there are some people that thought it was much easier to listen talking about books than it was relatives? Yeah,
I would not be surprised about that. I know that you give it the meaning you
So
yes,
I know how real it seems, that well as the subject matter. But unless that was true of everybody that had ever done this, it's got to be the individual.
Yeah.
And the meaning they're making of it.
It's interesting, isn't it? To see that.
Isn't it?
Really interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
And I think this is Diana, if I may add something to that, it's so interesting just because we are like in a different country, we are But it's all like, you don't have to be in front of a human physically to feel their energy. And it's like the human connection, regardless in what part of the world. And it goes beyond the words. And it's just what is going through. And you could see like that beauty even in with looking at them in their eyes. So regardless how different we are, how many different experiences we have had, there's like a connection there that is in a story behind all of us. And when we share that, that is so beautiful and genuine and gratifying at the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else?
Hi, Mavis. Good to see
Hi.
you. I
There you
I
are.
just want to say what a gift it is to be listened to from that place. It feels, as well as the connection and the love that's there, it kind of allows space when I'm talking to kind of find what it is I want to say without anything getting in the way. You know, there's a real beauty to that. I really enjoy the way Audra listened to me. Sweet.
Gift is a good word for it. Yeah. Thank you. Who's next?
Would you like to continue sharing, Mavis? Just to give you a heads up, we're at the 90-minute mark.
Oh, do we care?
Mm-hmm.
I'll care if you want me to.
No, just keeping you posted. I don't think anyone here cares. We're all having a good time.
We're close. We don't have much left, and we can go to the next thing now if you want. To maybe you can bring them back. Yes. Is everybody?
I have slide 6 here, Mavis. Would you like me to move on?
How about if you put up 7?
Yep.
Okay, let's have a chat about this. Ordinarily, when I'm doing this in person, I write on this, but since that's a little tricky, we're not going to do it. I would like to hear just from all of you, starting with how does it feel to be listened to? I would like us to make a list, one-word list of feelings, and just call them out. And that's what I was going to have you use the paper and pencil for if you wanted to remember what was on the list, but it's not necessary. Just call out, how does it feel to be listened to? We just heard someone say it was a gift.
Loved.
Loved.
Honored.
Say again.
Honored.
Honored, yes.
Care.
Cared.
Cherished.
Say again.
Cherished.
Cherished. Oh, what a lovely word. Yes.
Heard.
Yes.
Important.
Yes.
Connected.
Can you all hear each other?
Free.
Timeless.
Timeless.
Seen.
Seen.
Visible.
Yeah.
Connected.
Connected, yeah.
Calm.
Spacious.
Say again?
Spacious, like space.
Involvement.
Understood.
Understood, yes.
Soft.
Soft.
Appreciated.
Appreciated. So, how then does it feel not to be listened to?
Frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Invisible?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Insignificant.
Yeah.
Discount.
Say again.
Discounted.
Discounted, yes.
Disrespected.
Yeah.
Lonely.
Yes.
Tiring.
Oh, yeah.
Small.
Pointless. Prejudged.
Yeah.
Unworthy.
Sad.
Yeah.
Ignored.
Yeah.
Lonely.
Mm-hmm. So, isn't that amazing that just the act of either deep listening or not can make that much difference? And in the end, at the end of an interaction, how would you like people to feel? I don't think it's much of a contest.
Relief.
Pardon?
I would like people to feel relief.
Yeah. I would like them to feel everything on that first list. And I would like to feel that way myself.
That brought me to a question. May I ask or no?
Sure.
So the question is, I know this is an exercise, maybe I'm taking a little bit further about listening. And it brings up the question for me, how do we listen for ourselves? Because sometimes we listen to others and it's much easier. But then when we have to listen to our own self, how do we listen to ourselves?
The same way.
Mm.
The same way. Karen Armstrong, who is a British theologian, has these little, they're not little, little steps to listening. She says, set aside the clever, educated, opinionated self. Open yourself to trying on others' views for size. Come from your compassionate, open-hearted self. Don't keep score. Keep yourself free from fear of being changed or influenced or affected. In other words, what you were just doing. And I want to say something about that this is an inborn capacity that we all have. And I'm going to quote somebody from a long time ago, Leonardo da Vinci. Human ingenuity will never devise any inventions more beautiful, nor more simple, no more to the purpose than nature does. Because in her inventions, nothing is wanted and nothing is superfluous. So in my work, I spend a lot of time trying to help people see that they have everything they need. They're not missing anything. They're not junk. They're not damaged goods. They're not incapable. And the deep listening is a capability you all have, and you all experienced it, whether it was in a few seconds or a few minutes. So you no longer could tell yourself you can't do that. It's too late. So we have a slide up there that talks about the side effects of it. My favorite part is that it calms the mind. It calms the mind. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. And it makes room for thoughts that didn't come from your brain, they came to your brain. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a capability? That you can have a thought you've never had before. And it creates an atmosphere where whoever you're listening to has that same experience. Let's go directly to number 10, Grace. This, in the end, after all of this that we've been doing today, there's really just two steps to deep listening. The first being seeing it as a good idea. And all you have to do to make that happen is notice how you are listening. You don't have to try anything. It's kind of like when you're distracted, as soon as you notice you're distracted, you're not. If you have already decided you want to spend way more time deep listening, then just be the observer and notice how you are listening, and you will let go of everything that doesn't feel like love. I really want to thank all of you for listening to me. It really is a gift to be listened to. Thank you very much. Every time you notice, you feed your consciousness. It gets muscles. And I want to give you one tiny little piece of one thing to do between now and next week. Listen to someone you don't like. You don't have to spend all day with them. Just listen to them a little bit. See what happens. Deal?
Looks like a big yes. Thank you, Mavis. So look forward to seeing you all for part 2 at the same time next week. And in the meantime, I'll make sure you get the recording of this, and the PowerPoint also comes with. Anything else you'd like to say, Mavis, in closing?
I just had the best time. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.